Hello everyone, it's Leo, and we had the honor of talking to a huge Precure fan who went to watch Dancing Star Precure in theaters. We talked to Miluda, who is one of the biggest Precure fans out there, and she shared a little bit of her experience with this amazing new addition to the Precure franchise. Miluda has shared with us her impressions of the story, and we also asked certain questions about her general impressions and some little information as well. First, let's start checking out the story of the play as described by Miluda herself. Dancing Star Precure is set at a high school where the boys attend a dance circle. They all have their reasons for dancing. Gaku, who is Cure Top, and Hayato, who is Cure Lock, want to qualify for a competition the circle is aiming for and requires passing a dance exam. Koga, who is Cure Kagura, comments about how a lot of the recruits to the circle are less about qualifying for the competition and more about being fans of Sasana, who is Cure Soul. They even show up with idol-like fan signs. We see Gaku try to make his way to the exam, but Gaku runs into some shadowy-looking enemy, and Padudu comes in while Gaku gains Cure Top's power and has a dance-off against the enemy. There's a bit of fighting, and he beats them. Gaku is now late for his exam, while Hayato tries to delay his own exam at the circle because he wants Gaku to have a chance at the exam. When Gaku arrives, Hayato ends up failing the exam because he doesn't look like he is enjoying his dance. His dance was stiff and nervous, constantly focused on doing the right moves instead of doing them with a natural or fun look. Gaku almost had his chance at the exam, but runs off as there is some more trouble with the shadowy looking dancers. Koga says Gaku failed automatically for running off before his exam was going to start. It ends up being all the students that tried out that day failed the exam, and everyone leaves the scene sans Koga and Sasana. Sasana comments, "That guy did not show up today." Hayato is not pleased about his performance at the dance exam and talks about how he did everything right, but it wasn't enough. Gaku talks about how dancing ought to be fun. At some point, Gaku spills that he is a precure to Hayato against Padudu's wishes, and Hayato at some point becomes Cure Lock. Padudu once again explains the reason why they are fighting the enemies and how he wants to create the happiness song, and Lock understands the explanation, which Top is still confused about. Gaku wants to convince Koga to get a dance test retake, and right when it seemed like all of the dancers who failed could get a retake, Mr. Muroi shows up, saying that since no one passed the exam, it shows that the circle cannot be run by students, who are Koga and Sasana, Cure Kagura and Cure Soul, and a teacher must be in charge. Koga is unable to counter this, and Mr. Muroi officially starts training the circle members. His style is trying to make their dances more mechanically synchronized instead of unique or fun looking, so Gaku is unhappy with this. Gaku and Hayato run off, and we are introduced to some non-Cure characters, Kei and Mitsuru. They both used to be on the basketball team, but due to some accident, Mitsuru is hospitalized and has to heal his leg. Mitsuru is taken off the main team due to his injury, and Kei finally is able to join the main team after having been benched the entire time, though we don't know this information until later. A random basketball appears and Gaku catches it, returning it to Kei. Kei, Gaku, and Hayato get introduced. Mitsuru, in his hospital bed, gets a visit from Mr. Muroi and is told that even if his leg doesn't heal, he could do something else. Gaku and Hayato talk with Mr. Muroi, and Gaku is convinced that Mr. Muroi is part of the evil dancers, but Mr. Muroi is able to keep up his facade as a normal teacher, and Hayato apologizes for Gaku's outburst. Eventually, Mitsuru decides he wants to continue playing basketball, and Mr. Muroi is not pleased that Mitsuru hasn't given up, and eventually, Mitsuru falls into the evil power and dons a mask. At some point, Kei also dons a mask because there was no way he could have joined the main team without his friend Mitsuru getting injured. While Cure Kagura and Cure Soul were fighting some enemies, both of them discover that there are new precures. Cure Lock and Cure Top show up, and while Top is trying to get them all to hang out as a team, Cure Kagura refuses, saying that the other two are too weak. Cure Kagura is not happy that Parudu did not update them or that he granted others Precure powers. Kagura is convinced that him and Soul are enough to defeat the enemies, and we find out later the reason could be possibly connected to Cure Break. We come across that guy spoken about in the earlier part of the stage play, and it's Maito, who is indeed Cure Break. He is dancing to his own thing, and Gaku and Hayato like his dance. He stops the music and says he doesn't need to hang out with other people. Gaku is quite overbearing towards Maito since he finds Maito's dance super cool and tries to befriend him. At some point, they have a small dance off, and Maito is pretty impressed. They make a deal that if Gaku can impress him, then Maito's got to train him so Gaku can do better at the competition he wants to win. There are more enemies to fight, and eventually the three of them discover they are all Precure, so it seems that Cure Break used to fight alongside Kagura and Soul, but something happened that made Break leave the team. The dance-off happens, and at this point, Hayato realizes that he has forgotten his reasons for why he danced. It was fun, and he loved it. He was too busy living up to the impressions of other people and how he was this gifted dancer and forgot to have fun with it. Maito starts feeling it's okay to have teammates again. We finally come across where the teacher finally reveals his true nature and there is some fighting. Out comes Kei and Mitsuru wearing those masks, but eventually the Precures are able to free them by making them realize the reasons for their unhappiness was not what it seemed. Mitsuru admitted that he was always sad that Kei was being benched and that he wanted to play with Kei. Kei realized that his jealousy of Mitsuru was actually because he also wanted to play on the team with Kei. They make up and are able to get free of the dark power. With the 5 Cures together now, they fight through all the mind-controlled circle members and are finally able to confront Mr. Muroi. His bad guy name is Choreographer. There's an intense battle and dance-off, and eventually the Precures use their skills to remove the evil influence from him. Mr. Muroi says just because the evil power no longer influences him, he still is unhappy about how he can't ever dance the same way ever again. Top convinces him that even if he can't have it the same way as before, he can still do something. And Mr. Muroi is pleased enough that he is looking forward to having the students impress him. We're at the end of the stage play, and of course Mitsuru is able to heal his leg and try basketball again. Koga is not as strict anymore, and Maito also shows up. My memory is fuzzy on how it ends, since they never fight the ultimate bad guy. Perhaps it paves the way to a continuation? This is a very interesting story, and it intrigues me that they didn't exactly fight a big villain this time. Does this mean we have a sequel incoming? Maybe they're testing the waters? I don't know. All I know is that it makes me even more excited to actually watch this when we have the chance by not watching it in theaters. Anyways, now we are going to check out some of the other information that she shared with us with the questions that we asked for her, talking about the general experience, and we asked how the transformation scenes were. And Miluda explained that they played a visual on digital screens that moved around with the actor's silhouette dancing. And at some point, the actor appeared on the stage already transformed. It's different from how they do dream stage transformations, as the actress is doing the non-transformed outfits and the Precures are 2 different people. So they can do instant transformations in those shows, but here this time the actor has to change costumes. There is a short part of it in the preview video on the YouTube channel, so we were able to already check out how the transformations are done even without watching the play, and I think they're super exciting, and the actors are kind of cute while they do the transformations. I kind of loved it. Oh my god. We also asked how the character focus is on this show, and Miluda said that each character of the team has their own backstory, though they didn't explain how some of them became Precure. In the story, we see how Cure Top and Cure Lock got their powers, but before the storyline of the stage play, the rest of the Cures already had their powers. It was not fully explained how they got them, just that they had some falling out with each other or with some of the non-Cure characters. So Cure Break did not join the team until he was ready to. We also got some background story on the two non-Cure characters, along with them falling to the evil force. And Miluda said that she thinks it's overall a complete story, as much as you could try condensing a full year's worth of Precure into 2-ish hours. Another question was if she felt that we got to know each boy equally, minus Cure Top most likely getting the most attention as the pink as the lead Cure from the show. And she said that we get to know at least one thing about each. Cure Break thought it was his fault that someone else got injured. Cure Kagura and Cure Soul are the returning students who now run the dance circle at their high school until Mr. Muroi came along and took over the circle, saying that he could help them win the competition. Their mindsets clashed and Mr. Muroi emphasized sameness while the boys emphasized uniqueness. Cure Top was basically the one with the most development, with his main point being that he is unique in staying true to himself. Cure Lock usually just went along with most people until his turning point came that he realized dancing meant a lot to him and should do it for fun instead for the image people had of him. I think the biggest shock I had was that I expected Cure Kagura to be elegant and nice, but he ended up being so strict, rude, and yelled at his classmates. His criticism of the other Cures, and especially Cure Lock's dance during an exam, was really blunt. We also asked, or actually I asked, what's the role of the sexy teacher? And I did not remember the name of the character while I sent the questions. I was asking about Mr. Muroi. And Miluda said that Mr. Muroi is actually the main villain of this story, even though there's a leader above him for the evil crew. He starts off like any other normal teacher, but he seems to be really strict. He also has a talking style where he will use random English when he wants to make a point, especially saying nonsense when he doesn't like or agree to something. It ends up being that he was injured in the past by a fellow dance team member who was jealous of his skill. The ultimate evil character convinced him to turn to the dark side due to his despair that he could never dance like he used to again. And then we also asked who was the villain of the story and if she remembers their goal. And she answered that it's kind of unclear. They made it a humorous point when Padudu was trying to explain the story to Cure Top, who was derpy about understanding it. He even almost explained it twice, and as he was explaining the backstory, there were representations of the evil main boss behind a mask that was often used to hide who was the next person to fall to the despair of being unable to do something again. They broke the fourth wall with Padudu noticing there was a character on stage who shouldn't actually be in the scene, etc. In any case, their goal seemed to be to make people who were already feeling bad to do worse things. We also asked a little bit about Padudu, because in some promotional pictures of the play, we can see that Padudu both as a human and as a fairy on stage at the same time. So we asked her to explain the context of those scenes. And she said that any time that we could see Padudu as a fairy, we should pretend that his human form is not standing behind the fairy. He was never both at the same time. They also had a frequent joke of calling him Oji-san, and he would always reply that he is not an Oji-san. It's kind of a name for men who are middle-aged and can no longer be mistaken for a young adult. And last, we asked 2 questions about the general experience. The first one, does Dancing Star do anything drastically different from the other series, or does it feel right at home as Precure? And Miluda says that she thinks it's pretty much the spirit of Precure, but on a stage show. The only difference to Miluda is that the boys use some rather crude language, but nothing sexual, and they may say some rude things. There's a more forceful style of conversation, and obviously it's not made for children. She was not a fan of Mr. Muroi's yelling when he was angry, but all of her friends who saw it really loved it. She wishes there was at least one girl, even as a non-Cure character, but the entire stage was only men, so the majority of the audience were women. Quite different from the usual Precure event, as usually the attendees are mostly men. And we asked if she would go watch it again, and she said that yes, she would see any future Dancing Star Precure shows. And maybe she would watch the live stream of the recent one, the current one, because the ticket is quite expensive to go see it live. The dances are super good, and for Miluda, the best part has to be either the dances featured that they were super intense, or the singing at the end. Miluda is a bigger fan of musicals, so she wished it was all a musical, but the dances have so much energy that it was really fun to see. And she also said that there was a part that they could take photo of the guys and upload it to social media. That's very nice. I feel like Dancing Star is really something that will bring the Precure franchise to a new level and give us something different, give us something fresh. And it's very nice to be able to have a chance to talk to someone who went to watch it. And Miluda, thank you very much for sharing this with us, for taking your time to answer our questions. T, thank you for brainstorming the questions with me. It was super fun to do. And let's wait until we have the DVD and Blu-ray release. Maybe we will have subs to watch it. I want to see Dancing Star. Anyways, babies, this is it for now. I want to take this little time to thank the members of the Magical Cinema channel. If you are a member, thank you very much for your support. And if you've watched up until now, thank you so much as well. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye bye.